Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
So finally, Kamala Harris comes out of nowhere, I guess out of hiding, and delivers her concession speech. All right, that's number one. But number two, more importantly, which I think you're going to find entertaining, the meltdown that occurred on The View, which we know we despise these women. I don't think they ever have anything positive to say. And the clips I'm going to show you is no different. And they pretty much took a page out of MSDNC's book about the excuses on why she lost this election. Why don't we start with how they were feeling about the results? Listen.
So, how you feel? I'll start. Yeah, go ahead. My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will. And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult. But boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so she's giving you guys the standard response that you would expect from someone with a little decency, which I was surprised. But don't worry, she says something that's really off the wall that contradicts everything she just said. Later in the video, I'll show you that. But the real unhinged moment comes when Sunny Hostin was asked what she felt about this loss from Kamala Harris. Watch.
I don't know. I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States.
All right, so I had to stop it right here because she clearly has no idea what she is talking about. All right, we already know this about Sunny Hostin. She only sees things through the eyes of racism, right? And to even say that you have less rights than, or your daughter has less rights than you did during the civil rights era is just out of this world. And that's where we are in this country, where there are people living inside of a bubble and they don't really see the world for what it is. It's not all bad. That's the interesting part about it. It's really not the way that they want us to believe. And if they would just really find a way to stop looking at things from a victim mentality, they could see that.
I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country. Because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons. Well, and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Cultural resentment. That's where she's going with it, okay? No, it's a referendum on the fact that policy-wise, she was not good for this country. And I even tell people this example all the time. If Condoleezza Rice was running for president, people would have a different reaction. But she's not. If Michelle Obama was running for president, people would have had a different reaction. But it was Kamala Harris, the most unlikable person you could put up, who clearly cannot talk policy whatsoever, can't even explain her policies with any type of energy that makes you feel confident about it. So no, Sunny Holston, stop it, okay? You just admit that you've lost. You don't know what you're talking about. And just maybe you should look in the mirror. Okay, so just really quick about something here. So we know they did not like that she lost this election. So besides doing the whole identity politics excuses, now they're talking about free speech and why Elon Musk is another reason why she lost. Here's what they have to say.
Some pundits are asking what the vice president could have done differently to break through with the voters. Of course, she only had 3 months to campaign, rally. She kicked his butt all over the country over the course of those 2 months. She did every debate, every interview. People kept saying they didn't know who she was, so then she told them who she was. So how much more could she have done? Or should she? I mean, aside from buck naked dancing on the top of the table, I don't know what else she could have done.
I don't think she could have done more. I think she left it all out on the field. I think she raised $1 billion in 3 months. I think that she ran a flawless campaign, and I maintain that.
But see, that answer is why she lost, because they're out of touch. The answer to the question is, what were the voters saying? That's what she should have done differently. The voters kept saying, hey, Kamala Harris, we don't know you. Can you tell us who you really are? Don't give us your talking point answer. Give us the real you answer. And really what they're going to continue to do is push misinformation, especially about this election. And they're just as guilty as all these other media outlets. So when these media outlets are claiming something is misinformation, what do you do about it exactly? Well, this is why I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, Ground News. You could check them out by going to ground.news/Devori. Okay, so I went to their website and I searched up the story, right? Donald Trump wins 2024 presidential election. And what happens is it pulls in all of the articles from the different media outlets and it organizes it across the political spectrum. So there are articles that are coming from the left and then there are articles coming from the right. Pay attention to the headlines here. The articles on the left, I'm just going to choose one. Donald Trump addresses his supporters from Florida election night party. This was 3 hours ago. And then if you look on the right, you see Donald Trump set to return to the White House. Clearly, there is a bias already in the reporting with something this important. And that's why they have something called the bias distribution tool here on the right that tells you overall, is this story leaning more to the left or is this story leaning more to the right? Well, Ground News created a groundbreaking tool called Blind Spot, which shows you all of those stories that have been disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. So if you're like me, you like to do your own research and see the full picture, go to ground.news/Devori, scan the QR code, or hit the link in my description or pinned comment and get 50% off the Vantage plan that gives you access to everything I showed you in this video. I can't stress enough how powerful and groundbreaking this tool really is. I trust it, and so should you. So go to ground.news/Devori. Don't let the misinformation from these media outlets discourage you from doing your own research. So now, as of shooting this video, they have finally accepted that Trump is the president-elect. But at my time right now, it's 3 p.m. in California. Why did it take them so long to concede? Well, I have the same question about Kamala Harris. Why did it take her so long to do this concession speech?
Hi there, Lester. Well, as we await the Vice President's remarks right behind me, we can tell you that this is the first time that we will see her publicly since yesterday afternoon when she was at DNC headquarters at a phone bank. But I was here yesterday, Lester, and I can tell you the mood here very different than it was yesterday, at least earlier in the night. We saw just such a deflated crowd here as the returns started to come in. Now, we can tell you that the Vice President was at her residence throughout the day and that she was working on her speech. Interestingly, Biden aide tells me that she really didn't have this type of concession speech fully ready. She had expected instead to have a type of speech where she would tell her supporters to hold on, because her campaign really expected this election results process to drag on for several days.
Listen, she knew last night it was over, okay? She could have conceded last night. She could have given him a phone call. She didn't. She waited till today, later in the day, actually. But fine, whatever. We'll give her a pass on that. But what we're not going to give her a pass on is what she had to say in this speech. Watch this.
Feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
But she is the one that wants to change the Constitution of the United States. She was a part of administration that was trying to change Title IX and make it legal for men to play in women's sports. Stop it with that type of rhetoric. We know you don't truly believe that. However, this is her message to young voters, because it was the young vote that I would argue decided this election.
To the young people who are watching, it is... I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before.
Now, what's interesting about the later half of what she just said, she was describing what just happened. Young voters stood up to her party and said, hey, we're not going to buy into your propaganda. We see the results. And secondly, Trump did something that a lot of people said was impossible. So again, we have another case where the Democrats are speaking, and when they're trying to speak positively, they're actually describing what Trump has been doing already. And then when they switch up to try to speak negatively about him, they're really talking about themselves. It's like a projection. Oh, and by the way, speaking of projection, I'm going to give you 15 seconds of liberals crying about the result. Watch. Hopefully they find some mental health assistance, because they're going to need it, of course. Now, your favorite president, former President Obama, here's what he had to say.
Continued moments ago, former President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama released a statement. It reads in part, "This is obviously not the outcome we had hoped for, given our profound disagreements with the Republican ticket on a whole host of issues. But living in a democracy is about recognizing that our point of view won't always win out and being willing to accept the peaceful transfer of power."
All right, so that's what he had to say. I have really nothing to say about it, because who cares what Obama has to say at this point, right? He did everything he could to get Kamala to win, but he was working with the candidate that wasn't strong enough. That's just the bottom line to it. And she is not Obama, okay? Now, here is what they're reporting when it comes to President Biden and him inviting Trump to the White House. Watch.
Anderson, as we mentioned at the top, President Biden and President-elect Trump also spoke today. We learned that Mr. Biden will address the nation tomorrow. CNN's Kayla Tausche is at the White House for us. First, Kayla, what do we expect to hear from the president tomorrow? And what did you hear about the conversation he had not only with Donald Trump, but of course with his vice president?
Well, the conversations were very brief. They were very high level. A White House official said that President Biden congratulated the vice president on what he described as a historic campaign. And as for the conversation with now President-elect Donald Trump, President Biden talked about being a president for all people and ushering in a peaceful transition of power. Now, clearly, it is not a bittersweet moment for President Biden. It is expected to be quite bitter as he delivers this address in a race he believed that he could have won. Whether that there's any tinge of that in his remarks, we don't expect there to be. We expect him to be on script and speaking at a high level. But of course, we'll see when he actually delivers them.
All right. So what we've had here so far is Kamala Harris has delivered her concession speech. It was very short. I think maybe 10 minutes max. It's not really worth watching, in my opinion. Number two, she did speak to Donald Trump, of course, President-elect Trump. Joe Biden did speak to President-elect Trump, and he's supposed to, I guess, address the nation tomorrow, like you guys heard. The View is in the same category as MSDNC. They are going to go down fighting, okay? They're going to fight tooth and nail to diminish Trump. Everything that he does moving forward, they will critique. Why? Because it gets them ratings. I keep telling you guys this. If it wasn't for Trump, I don't see how most of these shows or these news organizations would be in business, because all they do is talk about him. So anyhow, I just think that seeing the View melt down and accept defeat is definitely, I think, worthy and well overdue. And then seeing her concede was the respectable thing that we would want to see. That's what I think about all this. What about you guys and what you think about the View melting down and calling for social media platforms to be censored, which takes us back to, what, 2020? What did you guys think about her concession speech and what she had to say? Let me know what your thoughts are and more in the comment section below. Now, I already told you the View clearly is going to go down fighting. So is MSDNC. And I did a video earlier on that where you will get to see the meltdown over and over at MSNBC and some of the radical reasons they came up with as it pertains to why she lost. If you want to see that video for yourself, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.